Oh yeah, righto, time for another YouTube video, right? Oh, let's see now. 640 KB, okay. Give me YouTube, where is it? System options not set, run setup in diagnostics. Damn! I think, who put this here? I need to upgrade my computer. This isn't what I normally have for YouTube videos. This is sabotage. That's what this is. Hey peeps, let's see how this goes. So a little video on, this is part 2 of pre-Christian landscape crucifixion. So this is the Christian religion before the bloke in Palestine comes along. It looks like they were praying towards the east anyway, which was the rising sun, and expecting always a prophet to come from the east. Hence there's been more than one prophet called Isa. And the latest one really took hold, and it was actually, I think from memory, I think Buddhism was the same thing. So I've got lots of ancient history books just to share with you, just really old things. So this means that actually what the ley lines are Isa landscape crosses. You can call them Isa landscape alleys because they are Isas lines. So, so they always show this bloke. He didn't discover ley lines. He did not. He did not. At the same time as he was researching, Xavier Guichard in France was doing actually probably even more technical work than him, and he got the idea from Edward Duke. So the man who uncovered it. Well, he said this is why I don't want to trash the guy. I'm sure he's got descendants who are very proud of him. He's a fantastic guy. But this book that Edward Duke wrote was more like mid 19th century or early 19th century. Massive ley line across England. So I love it when people cite the sources because, let's face it, everyone knows that you make a discovery by not citing your source. I think Einstein said that, I'm not sure. Anyway. Righto, so the ley lines and what they are. So there's Old Sarum. So Tumulus, Stonehenge, Old Sarum, Salisbury Cathedral, Clearbury Ring, and Frankenbury Camp. Wow, nice. So, but he's showing they're going in one direction, but actually they cross. And what Xavier Guichard showed was they cross many, many, many times. So they're not just a cross; they're like a rosette, or they're crosses depending on different sunlight alignments, sunrise alignments. So what happens is, if there's one sunrise alignment in one direction, you need to make a cross as another cross. You need to cross that to make it holy, and then that day is holy as well. There's another ley line going there, so we need to cross that as well. So there end up being lots and lots and lots of crosses across the landscape. And what Guichard uncovered, and this guy didn't, it seems, was this pattern that they actually do form crosses. So that's one out of the way. This was one of my favourite books as a child. I would, pre-internet, I'd pore over this book, The World Atlas of Mysteries by Francis Hitching. In the 70s, ancient mystery books, and the 70s altogether are absolutely one of the greatest decades in the history of the world, especially if you're into this kind of stuff. Because there were TV programs where rustic gentlemen in their cottages or country houses in their tweed suits with their pipes. And then they pull out a dowsing rod. They say, "Oh, look at this is what I found. I found a water lily in the ground." Anyway. So, firstly, leys in ancient Egypt, as well as in landscape crossing in ancient Egypt. So these were Indo-Germanic people, because they have the same culture. Okay, Why is Giza at the center of Egypt and it's a pyramid facing the 4 directions? Why are the pyramids sort of in a north-south alignment? Many of them. Because they're on the ley line. I've never even bothered looking for north-south ley lines in Egypt, but they're surely there. When you look at Aristophanes, Aristarchus' experiment regarding latitudes and all this, and calculations of the size of the Earth and all this, he was on some kind of ley network, looking at the different points at different times at different latitudes. Okay, are they crossing the world? There are many indications that the Great Pyramid was built by the worldwide megalithic. It was a United Nations project. Worldwide megalith builders coming together to build something in a world centre. Pyramidologists have come up with one of these explanations for this. You want to bisect the land area. And I've seen that we've shown many times on this channel that the Duke Ley line does in fact bisect the land area in Britain. I got the idea probably from this map, and I tried it with Google Earth, and it basically works. You can trace a line around countries to see what the land area is. In other words, this was a high seafaring civilization that constructed the Duke Ley line in Britain, Stonehenge, Avebury, etc. They knew the world. And that is what the Greek sources say. The whole planet was traversable. That is what it says in the Odyssey about the Phaeacian ships. They knew where to go automatically. They knew all the lands. Almost like a computer system. Well, not that advanced in the last 10,000 years probably, because we haven't seen too much evidence of that. But before that, 30,000 years ago, there was a big catastrophe. If archaeologists find rusty iron in the ground, do you really think they're going to publish about that? If it doesn't belong? Let's continue. Oh, he's debunking some pyramidology ideas. So this is what this bloke does, Francis Hitching, in his books, and this is what lots of them did. In order to talk about ancient mysteries, but also they want it to be credible among their peers, they try and do a bit of skeptical inquiry as well. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, alignments. So, alignments and connections. Oh, this one here, the triangle one was, discovered by Norman Lockyer. Brilliant bloke, brilliant. Old Sarum. See, that made me, that 6 miles thing. That's the Atlantis dimensions from the outer wall to the centre. So, do you remember long ago I made a theory saying, okay, that's the where's Old Sarum? That's the centre. That's the Atlantis. It looks like Atlantis. Someone pointed that out to me a long time ago. Tina, yeah, you pointed that out to me. And therefore, that's the 6 mile wall around Atlantis. There's actually there's probably more sites. So I directed a friend of mine in Britain, he has a little YouTube channel, to travel out, I believe, to one of these points to see if there was anything, I can't remember, to see if there was anything there. And he found I think it was fenced off or something like that. But there were copses of trees where it should have been more fortifications of that outer wall, that 6 mile wall. And, well, we've got off track. So there were royal roads in Britain, crossing like that. And that was famous throughout the Middle Ages. You see that on the Matthew Paris maps. So if there's one going there needs to be another one going there. And that would be the best way to do it. So that line there generated another line which had to go from London across, or from somewhere down here across that way. And that's why you do the Ley line, because you're following the sun and then you're crossing it, I think. And that's Christianity. Using the entire landscape. So that's the dragon, according to dragon killing saints. Dragon killing saints were on that alignment. This is a sort of rarish book. I shouldn't have written on it so I could sell it. The Sun and the Serpent. They followed it, and they found that parallel to the St. Michael's line, these two, Miller and Broadhurst, they found parallel to that line was a St. Mary's line as well, St. Mary churches. So there's actually two lines going together, and St Michael alignment with the Michael and Mary currents shown across southern Britain, and they actually followed that. Did a lot of work. What I would like to do, or someone else, I don't have the time or the money, but if someone else would like to do this, because I'm doing other things, if someone else would like to do this, write a book and follow the ducal Ley line all the way up to the top of Scotland, through Stonehenge and Avebury and Old Sarum, just walk it. Or if someone wants to do Watling, I think that's Watling Street, isn't it? I'm not sure. No, this is Watling Street there. Yeah, there's lots of things you can try. Right. What's in here? Oh yeah, what's that? Okay. Next. So what Guichard, the Frenchman, discovered, they cross. Not only do they cross, but they cross along sites which say alleyways, or alleys. Look, there's even one in Poland, Kalisz, Calais, not so many in Britain, but it's more a continental thing. It shows you Britain was a separate civilization at the time this was done. I think I did discover one in England that crosses as well. And that's, in previous videos on this subject about Guichard, I've shown much more fantastic. If you look up his book, PDF, it's in French, which is why he doesn't get the credit, but there are so many maps in there, it is unbelievable. And he's done this many times, lots of rosettes. It's so many crosses upon crosses upon crosses. Anyway. So a Ley, there we go. Oh, perfect. Even Versailles, you see? Versailles. And look, so these are Al-Ezia, that is Al-Issa lines. So, as an example, I-Issei, Issi, Jesus, Issa, Proto-Jesus. I-Issei, Al-Issa, Al-Issi. And he didn't know about this Proto-Jesus religion, it seems. He didn't realise that Issa refers to Proto-Jesus. Look, how is this not a massive seafaring civilization? Notice this concentrated on Western Europe. In other words, it's likely the megalithic people. Okay, that's that one out of the way. You see it in the Asian tradition. This is a book about Buddhism. It basically talks about the philosophy. It's a brilliant book. This bloke in the 70s. He's looking for. It looks like, I think he did his PhD on something on the old texts. And if you look at that, these mandalas, they're called the Kalakram, and these are pictures these are like an Asian version of icons. But they show the center of the world, the center of creation, and it's basically a pyramid surrounded by a lake. It's basically the pyramid religion left over, and the center of this is sacred. But do you see what I see? It's a cross. Do you also see it's a Maltese cross? The Maltese cross is Asian. Do you see it? It's quite obvious where it is. There's the lines. Anyway, kind of Maltese cross. But do you see how this would generate a Ley line system? North-south and east-west. Lines, and these would be lines across the landscape. And so the pyramid actually belongs in the centre. So you can look at Old Sarum or Silbury Hill as being in the centre of Britain's system as well, as Giza is. And that's so-called Buddhism, isn't it? So Buddhism and pyramid religion are the same, but you see that Buddhism and proto-Christianity are also kind of the same as well, which points to worldwide. Well, it's not the same, but similar. That's why monks are everywhere. Devereux, yeah. He's alright. So he's very comprehensive. That's what I was talking about, the Duke system. Now, mundane means mund, it means planetary. So when you say mundane astrology, it's about the astrology of planetary positions, but for the sake of the worldwide system, not for the sake of someone's individual horoscope. It's actually, these mundane systems indicate what's going to happen to the planet. And see my comprehensive video on everything about mundane astrology. It's the Three Wise Men video. Just look back, just go to videos and just scroll back and you'll see it. And it'll tell you everything you need to know. The name of the prophet that the Three Wise Men were following as well. Because no one talks about him. I forget his name. The Iranian prophet, Iranian astrologer. Okay. And I discovered, remember I had that big map on the dining room table? This goes all the way across Britain. There are many, many more Sol Hills at least and more sites. So if someone wants to follow that line across Britain, that is one of the best projects they can do, because this LEY incorporates Stonehenge. It incorporates Silbury Hill, and then one of the kings made another centre of Britain in Oxford, and that's in Geoffrey of Monmouth. None of these Ley-line authors, except for Guichard, realised they were making crosses. This guy's brilliant. Graham Robb. So I think he did cycle. He's doing cycle tours and checking out sites and. Damn! Look at this guy. There's a British flag. So Oxford. It's centred on Oxford. You see. That's so. So someone actually in later times, the Iron Age, shifted it from Stonehenge. So there's an older one. The older one's going through Salisbury. And these are new discoveries that this guy's come up with. I think most of the maps in this thing, he has come up with them. But I'm not really seeing I don't believe I've seen the Duke Ley line in his book, but I could be wrong. Instead, he's done other north-south lines. But the Duke Ley line was the main one in the Stonehenge era, and then Oxford became the centre, so they shifted the religion to Oxford. So they started doing this. Why is there a university there? Because monasteries in pagan times were still there. They were still universities, and they were still teaching Pythagoreanism. They had to be the Druid schools had to be somewhere. Why not in a monastery? Monastery means moon. Oxford parallel, Adrian's Wall, the breadth of the island. So he's showing an Iron Age connection for Adrian's Wall and these walls, and that's something I noticed as well. Look at that discovery. They crossed over the land in many areas. There's a French one. These are his discoveries. These are proven. These are not hypothetical. Ley lines are not hypothetical. Longitude lines. Meridians. All the longitudes were already done in ancient times. They knew all the longitudes. What was I going to show you? Oh, yeah, he's found one in Ireland too. Visnik. Okay, that's why... Is. You see the is? Issa. Is. Isniak. Is. So it's an Issa line. Although the other names do seem different. That. That. Do you know what that is? That is a proof of ancient civilization. Not just ancient civilizations. We're talking highly advanced civilizations. This guy was a mathematician working for NASA. French. I think he's written other books, but they're in French. This one's in English. From memory. This guy is... Yeah, we're talking spacefaring long ago. But anyway, one of his discoveries... the Maltese cross in ancient Aegean. So This is landscape Christianity across the ocean. In the centre of the Aegean, there exists a small island by the name of Delos. It's always been considered the most sacred of ancient Greece, even though no one seemed to know why, of all places, Delos should be so sacred. It was simply an accepted belief, apparently carried over from a past unknown. To me, it seems there's only one logical explanation. Delos is the geometrical centre of the true design of the gods, the Maltese cross of majestic proportions that extends over hundreds of miles over the Aegean. And he's using ancient Egyptian stadia. And that's what he came up with. And as you see, the points refer to other temples, other great temples. So this is landscape Christianity according to the Maltese cross. And what he says is a synchronous satellite. He's been inspired by Duncan Luna's so-called extraterrestrial satellite. First, a synchronous satellite orbiting at the Delos latitude with a space velocity of 1,328 kilometers per hour. Then, to keep that satellite stationary over Delos, one of our newest devices was a navigation distance measuring airborne radar, metallic reflectors installed distance of 180, 200 kilometers around the two circles. It must have been constructed by just such means or with other much better device. It could have been done with Pythagoreanism. He's not thinking. I'm not sure if he's aware that the Druids had a very advanced knowledge of the Earth's dynamics. But he's saying you need something very advanced to build that. Thing is, I think the Iron Age, they did do this. The Greeks did not know about the existence of this cross. They had no knowledge of astronomy or geometry until the Egyptians gave them the basics of those sciences. To find out for what purpose and to whose benefit this geometrical making was set up, we have to continue our logical deductions and look back many thousands of years. And he ends up saying, what does he say? He says, well, I'm not going to read his book to you, but... Oh yeah, okay, according to my notes, he built it 12,000 years ago. Okay, he talks about a catastrophe 12,000 years ago. Oh, he reckons it might have been over the land. This might be a land cross. The islands of the Aegeans would have been much larger when the cross was made. So he's talking before 12,000 years ago this was done. So according to him, this landscape Christianity goes all the way back, and he talks about ancient Greek temples submerged by the Mediterranean. Yep, and he's discovering things in France. Anyway, it's very good constellation of French cathedrals. The cathedrals are built on sacred sites too. That's something I've barely investigated. Right, what's next? Okay, we're done with that. Good old David Zink. I think he's written 3 books. This is one of them. He got a psychic to go around to ancient sites with him and tell him the truth about these ancient sites in this book. But this is nothing to do with ley lines. I just saw this and wanted to show it to you. We know that Easter Island looks like Göbekli Tepe. This is a back of a stone at Kalasasaya Temple. There's the animals, and then we have a sort of a snake twisting around, going downwards. That is a very Göbekli Tepean, and that is at the Kalasasaya Temple. And on that, thank you for watching the video. This was part 2 on explaining what the ley lines are a kind of landscape Christianity of the Iron Age and Bronze Age until we get to this guy, and then he throws a spanner in the works and tells us, oh, it's much older. And this guy is... I don't know, I haven't checked out his mathematics, to be honest, but this is where I got the idea that the Mayan calendar from him, that the Mayan calendar was Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions, and it's actually 2020, because he talks about that in here. That base 20 is from that. So I'd say this guy has a lot of credibility. Hope you've enjoyed. Yeah, Bushy Park wetlands again. Just in Vermont South. This is behind that wetland area. The wetland is linear.
you can't walk behind it because there's all this swampland here stopping you. So I tried driving you around it as well, but there's farms behind it. Still farms there, not developed yet into houses. So, and over there, do you see that? There is a seminary, which is now a police academy.